Recently, more and more often in the media there are notes about the scientific confirmation of famous stories about the Holy Land from the Bible. Archaeologists have taken up the study and material confirmation of biblical stories seriously. This time, a military camp of the Assyrian army was found, reflected in the story of the siege of Jerusalem and Lakish. The Bible says that, "The angel of the Lord went out and killed 185,000 in the Assyrian camp." These events date back to about 701 BC, when the Jewish cities were once again captured by the conquerors. But Jerusalem was not taken this time, it was an unfinished siege. In Assyrian historical sources, the military campaign of the Assyrian king to the Levant took place as part of an expedition to pacify the peoples subject to the Assyrian Empire and replace vassal regimes. Having established his order in Syria, King Sennacherib turned his attention to the disobedient king of Judea, Hezekiah. This Jewish ruler is mentioned in the Bible as a faithful follower of God, who destroyed pagan temples, idols, tore down sacrificial hills and cut down sacred groves. Relying on God in everything and preaching his plan, he believed that submission to the pagan Assyrian king was not worthy of a supporter of the true faith, and declared his withdrawal from submission to the Assyrian ruler. Perhaps his decision was supported by the influence and promise of help from neighboring Egypt. But most likely, he rightly decided to rely on God's help, and he was right. One way or another, here is what King Sennacherib himself writes about this: "But Hezekiah, the king of Judah, did not submit. He had 44 walled cities and an infinite number of suburbs, which I defeated, taming them and lowering their pride. With the help of fire, slaughter, battles and siege towers I took them, I occupied them. I ordered 200,000 people and countless cattle to be taken from them as booty. As for himself, I imprisoned him in Jerusalem, the city of his power, like a bird in a cage. I surrounded and blockaded the fortresses around him. Those people who came out of the city were captured and taken captive." The Bible confirms this defeat, capture and devastation. In the 14th year of King Hezekiah, Sennacherib king of Assyria came up against all the fortified cities of Judah and took them. Then Hezekiah king of Judah sent to the king of Assyria at Lakish, saying, "I have committed the trespass, get away from me, whatever you impose on me, I will pay." But in addition to what was said, Sennacherib, despite the enormous tribute he had paid, still decided to go to Jerusalem, where an angel struck him down and forced him to retreat. The biblical reference to Sennacherib's disastrous defeat in Jerusalem is found in the Old Testament, in 2 Kings 19-35. "And it came to pass that night, that the angel of the Lord went and smote in the camp of the Assyrians 185,000 men. And they went out early in the morning, and, behold, there were dead bodies everywhere." This deadly event of Sennacherib and his disastrous invasion of Jerusalem, and the angelic intervention that took place there, is also mentioned in the book of Isaiah. Evidence that has been discovered relating to this account consists of the ruins of what is believed to have been the Assyrian camp from which the failed invasion of Jerusalem was launched in 701 BCE. The ruins were originally discovered by British archaeologist Stephen Compton in 2021 and were first spotted in aerial photographs of an area known as the Munisia Hill, located about a mile outside the city limits of Jerusalem. There is no evidence of any supernatural events at the site, and no ancient skeletons have been found. However, the fact that a fortified military camp dating back to the right time period can be found here shows that Sennacherib's army was indeed in the area. She was apparently ready to sack Jerusalem 2,700 years ago before the intervention of God's messengers doomed the siege. The military camps used by the Assyrian king Sennacherib, whose exploits at the siege of Lakish and Jerusalem are described in detail in the Bible, have finally been identified, an archaeologist said. The researcher studied a bas-relief about the siege of Lakish, then compared it with photographs of the city and its surroundings and discovered an oval-shaped structure with walls to the north of the city. Having delved deeper into the subject, Compton learned from locals that they had always known about the use of this structure as a military camp. The fact is that in the Assyrian tradition, it was necessary to build military camps in the shape of an oval, which allowed the scientist to identify the object. Of course, not all scientists support the biblical evidence of such productive intervention of the angel of God in this war. Skeptical researchers believe that the Assyrians were prevented from taking the capital of Judea by a contagious disease that spread among the Assyrian army. For example, Herodotus wrote that the army was overrun with mice, carriers of the bubonic plague. A lack of water due to the filled-in springs during preparation for the siege could also have had an effect. But at the same time, for some unknown reason, skeptics do not want to take into account the fact that the Bible directly indicates the time period during which the angel dealt with the huge Assyrian army. It is one night. In reality, no disease, including even the bubonic plague, could have destroyed the entire gigantic army almost simultaneously in such a short period of time. Only an incredibly powerful military force could have done such an action. That is, the version of a mass disease is immediately ruled out. This means that it was the intervention of the angel. And skeptics should take into account that every word written in the Bible is an axiom.